listening to Off the Cuff. Now, here's your host, Adam Banks.
The Final Four that no one could have predicted. What a weekend it was in college basketball. The Sweet 16 and the Elite Eight have passed us, meaning it's time to gear up for the 2023 NCAA Tournament Final Four in the land of men's hoops. Welcome, everybody, to the March Madness series presented by Off the Cuff with Adam Banks. I, of course, am Adam Banks, and I have with me the OTC Sports panel, Chad Rainwater and Zach Hahn. Guys, thank you for always being here and accompanying me every year with this. Good to see you.
Good to see you, too. I guess it's just two-thirds of the sports panel today.
I do want to make mention that Jordan is absent, so I don't want to say our thoughts and prayers go out with him. He's just busy. The man's busy working.
Yeah, well, as we've said many times on here, we do have day jobs. I know the quality of the show would make you think that maybe we do this for a living. You know, maybe we really are professional sports analysts, but sometimes the day job gets in the way.
Chad, good to see you back.
Good to see you, man. You got to bear with me. I'm a little under the weather. My voice sounds worse than actually how I feel, but I'll try to hold these coughs back a little bit.
Zach, Chad said, what do I do if I have to cough? I'm like, you're just going to have to cough. There's no mute button. And he says, well, I just won't cough. You can't hold back a cough. So when Chad starts coughing, folks, just know that it's, you can't really hold back a cough. I don't know how you do it.
No, and it's annoying, too, because I don't feel bad, but this cough's just ridiculous. Like you said, you can't really hold it back. And it's just something that takes a while to get rid of. I've had it for a few days now. I remember being at your house, or I was at your house on Saturday, and I couldn't even talk without getting choked up and coughing.
Don't worry, Chad. We're all in the same small, closed space together. We'll get through it with you.
Yeah, what could go wrong? They say, though, that a cough lingers for 6 weeks after you've been sick, so that's the last thing to go.
Well, I haven't really been sick. I think it's just allergies, but the cough's just the worst part. And it hurts my stomach when I cough. I've coughed so much, I'm getting abs, I'm pretty sure.
You might. Those are just ribs, but no, I'm kidding. No, I'm kidding. You need to just maybe go get that checked out if you don't get the cough taken care of here in the next couple of days. But nonetheless, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the March Madness series where we are going to be reviewing the Sweet 16 and the Elite Eight and previewing the Final Four. But before we get into it, let's talk about the Off the Cuff with Adam Banks Bracket Challenge, the top 10. And I don't see any of the sports panel on here, but number 1, Marvelous 32. Number 2 is Ink Tank 25. Number 3 is Big Jim's Bracket. Number 4 is Brandon Sapin. Number 5 is Screwed Brett. Number 6 is ESPN Fan. Number 7 is Adam Alame. Number 8 is Grant Moore. 9, T-Dog. And finally, 10 is Roseanne. And I'm not talking about Roseanne Barr, but folks, that's your top 10 for the Off the Cuff Bracket Challenge. I am a firm 50. Where are you sitting at, Chad?
I haven't looked. I know that I'm not even in the top 25 anymore. I'll bring it up real fast.
I think I was 30th. And I was 10 points behind Chad and then another 10 points behind Jordan. So, in the sports panel competition, it was very close, but I think, and we're all done.
Yeah.
And I don't think anybody in the pool had more than one team in the Final Four.
No.
From what I could tell. Who was it? I think I shouted out Mike Edwards last week. The Zach's bracket pool shout out of the week would have to go. Somebody has FAU.
I think it's Big Jim has got FAU.
Big Jim, bracket pool, shout out of the week. I don't know if you're affiliated with FAU or you just like their record, but that's incredible. You're got to be in the 1%.
Yes, and I think that out of the top 10 here that we mentioned, I know that there's somebody that out there that has UConn as their champion, and UConn's looking like the best team in the tournament so far. So if that happens, if UConn wins the championship, you can still jump up in this bracket challenge. There's still, because each round you get, how does ESPN do it, 250 points?
It's 300 something for the champion, I think.
Well, it's every round's 350. So just that one game is 350.
Yeah, it's still wide open. If you have teams left, like I said, I think no one has more than one team in their Final Four. So if you have Team A and somebody else has got Team B, if your team wins, that's probably going to decide it.
Yes, so there's still hope out there, folks, if you've got your champion still in there, and if you have any team, really, for that matter. But you can still check the ranking of where you're at in the Bracket Challenge on ESPN.com. But let's jump into it. Let's start with the Sweet 16. Our first game we'll talk about is number 1 Alabama taking on San Diego State. And I tell you what, Alabama was just looking like a number 1 seed. I don't know about you guys. What did you think about that game, Chad?
Well, if you remember last show, we talked about Alabama and the struggles with Brandon Miller, and I said that if they planned on going further into the tournament, they needed him to have a pretty good game, and that's the opposite of what happened.
Yes.
Brandon Miller shot a horrible 19.5% from the field, not against San Diego State, but overall in the tournament. And then the game against San Diego State, he went 3 for 19 from the field and 1 for 10 from three-pointers. But, I mean, despite him having a bad game, I still thought Bama had enough, athletes and would be able to be more physical against San Diego State. But that wasn't the case. We've known that in the past years, Alabama has lived and died about the three, which I think that's a little different this year. But they shot 3 for 27.
That's unreal. You can't win a ball game like that. Nate Oates, my hind end, ladies and gentlemen. Nate Oates is just simply not the person that everybody thought he was. Oh, he's this great coach. He's going to go to the Final Four. He's going to win the championship, number 1 seed. I don't actually think that Nate Oates is going to be any of that, because where's he at? So not something that I was, not a performance that impressed me one bit.
No, and I told you if you could pull the tape. No, we can't do that. Well, that's all right. If you go back and listen on the Selection Sunday show, yes, I told you Alabama was going to have a bad game.
Yeah.
If you listened last week, I told you, hey, watch out. This might be the bad game. Could be San Diego State. I stopped short of saying I thought they were going to win, but it turned out that I was mostly right about that. 3 for 27. They died by the 3.
Absolutely. And San Diego State advances to the Elite Eight by Nate Oates. Let's talk about Creighton versus Princeton. Number 6 Creighton versus number 15 Princeton. Creighton got the victory there. The Ivy League luck runs out. Ryan how do you say this name? Kalkbrenner.
Yeah, that's right.
That's a risky name to say on the radio. He scored a career-high 31 points. And he's 7'1", and I don't care if you are 7'1", you're able and you're athletic. That's a dominant player.
Oh yeah. You said how many points?
31 points, and it was a career high for Kalkbrenner
against Princeton. Which game was this?
The Creighton versus Princeton.
He had 22 points.
22, yeah.
Oh, really?
You did. It's still a dominant game.
Well, according to my CBS stats, I'm not seeing the 27. I'm seeing 31 points.
Well, Adam, you can't trust mainstream media. That's why we are here on WLXU 93.9. You gotta check your sources. But I really can't say much more about that game. I'm not trying to nitpick you on the stats. I fell asleep during that one.
It was a boring one.
It was.
Yes. I will say, though, that, we'll get to the Elite Eight in just a second, but yes, we'll move on from that one, because I feel like that the Creighton San Diego State, we have a lot more to talk about there, but, I mean, not really, but it's better than the Princeton Creighton. Princeton goes down. FAU, number 9 versus number 4 Tennessee. I am not surprised to see Tennessee lose this one 62-55. I'm surprised that Tennessee actually made it out of the first round. Rick Barnes, he's got to go. I don't think that he needs to still be at Tennessee. He's been at Tennessee 8 years, never been to a Final Four. And you may think, well, Tennessee as a program has never been to a Final Four. Tennessee as a program needs a Final Four. There's no reason why Tennessee couldn't be a program to be a Final Four college basketball team. Hear me out. They have a stadium that seats 27,000 people, 25,000 people. They are in a town very similar to Lexington, Kentucky, Knoxville, Knoxville. They've got the facilities. They've got the endowment to put money towards a facility and put money towards recruiting and push money into athletics. They've got the fan base. There's no reason why Tennessee shouldn't and couldn't be a Final Four team. Rick Barnes, are we just going to keep giving him the opportunity after opportunity every season just because of his name? 8 years is long enough without a Final Four one single time for him.
Yeah, but Tennessee doesn't have any Final Fours ever.
Did you not listen to my entire point? They need to get a Final Four as a program, and Rick Barnes isn't the one that's going to do it.
It looks like neither of the other coaches they've had have done. I mean,
but you don't need to fall in the fallacy theory of just keep doing the same thing over and over.
No, I agree.
I think as a program they need a Final Four, and Rick Barnes ain't the guy to do it.
I disagree with you. I'm on Chad's side on this one. Rick Barnes has been so much better than the teams under Rick Barnes have been so much better than the average Tennessee team has been over the years. I looked it up here. The average Tennessee all-time winning percentage, 0.615. Rick Barnes, almost 66%. So he's significantly better than Tennessee's been on average. And, yeah, they haven't had the tournament success, and I'm sure that's frustrating. But I don't think you can fire a coach at a place like Tennessee just because he's not getting it done. I mean, he's doing better than Matt Painter. Like, you want to talk about a coach that should be fired just over what he does in the tournament.
Bruce Pearl had Tennessee rocking and a-rolling. And then they were on their way of being a Final Four team. Unfortunately, Bruce Pearl had his cookout and got fired. But Rick Barnes, I just think that a lot of people ignore and kind of overlook his losing in the tournament because he's Rick Barnes. But I'm here to say it, folks. Tennessee needs a coaching change.
Would you hire Rick Barnes? So if Cal left and Rick Barnes was available, would you hire him, or are you just anti-Rick Barnes?
Oh my gosh, no. I don't think Rick Barnes is the right fit for Tennessee, nor do I think he's the right fit for Kentucky. Rick Barnes is a good coach. Rick Barnes can coach somewhere else. His time with Tennessee is over, though. 8 years. How long do we have to give him before you think Tennessee is just fed up? Or do you think he's secure? You think he's a lifetime coach?
I think they're content with what they do year in and year out. I don't think that
they kind of had an excuse with Ziegler getting injured this year.
Right. You don't have your point guard. I mean, how high are the standards for Kentucky or Tennessee basketball? Like, I mean, like I said, they've never gone to a Final Four. They don't know what it's like. Yeah, I think it's the right fit for Tennessee. I think Rick Barnes is the right fit for Tennessee. I don't know who else they could get. Or who's out there that they could, replace him.
It was just not really so much anymore. But ladies and gentlemen, the next game we'll talk about is Kansas State taking on Michigan State. And Marcus Noel is the talk of that game, of course. He broke the NCAA tournament record for assists in that game with 19 assists. And he ended up defeating Michigan State, putting out Mr. March, who wasn't on the show last week, said January, February, Tom Izzo. Was that Jordan?
I think
it must have been. I don't remember that one.
Yeah, that wasn't me.
Well, Tom Izzo is out 98-93, and I'm telling you, I do want to say, though, that Marcus Noel, I said last week on the show that he played his junior year of high school basketball at Cordia. I was incorrect. He played high school basketball for Cordia in the 7th grade, and that was the only year that he played. So after looking through that, he played his 7th year. I just want to correct that.
In my research for this game, or my prep for this game, I wrote down 3 things. I wrote down Noel ankle injury, record for assists, and the alley-oop. I think that's all we really need to talk about. I mean, he went down halfway through the second half with the ankle injury. It looked pretty severe. I think he was carried off the court and then somehow miraculously made a comeback and played very well. And there's also the alley-oop where he was arguing with his coach, and out of the corner of his eye, he saw Keontae Johnson open, and he just threw it up for the oop. I thought that was pretty. Yeah, one of the best plays I've seen in a very long time.
The most popular player in the tournament.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely, and that was an incredible game. And I think anybody that wasn't on the K-State Marquise Noel bandwagon before watching that had to get on it after that. It's just exciting to see a player that can distribute the ball like that.
March Madness can change your life as a player and a coach. I mean, the measuring stick for a coach is how well you do in the tournament. That's why a tournament if a coach does well in the tournament, he usually gets a new job. If the coach doesn't perform in the tournament, they usually cut ties. Same thing for a player. You can really get recognition. You can get fame. It's still like the guy that played for St. Peter's last year with the mustache. Doug. Nobody knew that guy's name before his one game in the March Madness. So March Madness, it's the grand stage of college basketball. So if you perform well, you do well, you make a name for yourself, just like Marquise Noel did. It could really benefit you. But Kansas State did defeat Michigan State in that one. Number 1, Houston, taking on number 5, Miami. Houston, another number 1 seed and my champion, losing that one. I absolutely loved the celebration by Miami coach, the 73-year-old. He busted moves straight out of the disco era. I don't know if you saw when he was dancing with his team after the game. I'm a big fan, Zach, when coaches dance around in the locker room.
I did not see the locker room celebration. It sounds a lot classier than taking your shirt off, though.
That's what I was thinking. Chad, what did you think of the game?
I think you have to give Miami some credit. What they did against Houston's defense was unbelievable. They shot 52% from the field, 44% from three, and 84 from free throw. They put up 89 points against a team that only allows 57 points the whole season, and they controlled the game for the most part.
Only 5 turnovers.
Only 5 turnovers. I think Miami's, like you like to say, is rocking and a rolling, and UConn may be the favorite, going forward to win the championship. But don't look past Miami. Jim Larinaga is the only coach that has ever gotten a team to a Final Four, so I think he has that advantage going into this weekend. But don't look past Miami. They're looking good, and I believe that they've beaten I can't remember who all they've played so far. I don't remember.
The next game up is Xavier versus Texas. Rodney Terry doing everything he possibly can to secure that job at Texas, 83-71, and he took down a very experienced coach, Sean Miller.
Yeah, that was a good one. Texas ended up letting me down against Miami. I slept on them. But Texas, man, they were a solid team. Came out and got it done in that 2-3 matchup.
Absolutely. Arkansas, number 8 versus number 4, UConn. There was no shirt taken off that night, Chad, and I know you had to be disappointed because your boy didn't get to have his normal celebration.
Well, I think y'all are a little happy because somebody won money on this game.
Yeah, I think that's why Jordan didn't show up.
Oh, yeah. He owes us both $20.
Yeah, he's skipping out on that bet, I think.
Mr. Confident with his do you remember how confident he was, Zach, during that bet?
It wasn't just that Arkansas was going to win that game. It was that they go ahead and put it in pen. They're champs.
I mean, even during the game, Zach and I were at his house, and they were down like 15 in the first half, and Jordan's like, "Nope, get your money ready, get your money ready." I'm like, "Dude, they're not coming back. UConn's looking good." And he's like, "Nope."
I guess Jordan didn't either.
And then finally, the last game of the Sweet 16 is number 3 Gonzaga versus number 2 UCLA. A classic series it's becoming. It was, I think this is their second meeting in the tournament. Is it their third?
The third. I don't know what year it was, but when Adam Morrison played.
Oh, that's going way back.
Yeah.
2003. I mean, that's not that.
That's way back. That's 20 years ago.
But still, it's still a classic because that game was a classic as well. Like, it's not just about the rivalry or whatever, but that game, I think Gonzaga blew a 17-point lead, and UCLA ended up coming back to win.
I thought that the ending of that game was the most exciting of the Sweet 16. Gonzaga was leading it. UCLA cut down a huge 7-8 point deficit, and with 12 seconds to go, they scored, and then Gonzaga with 10 seconds to go scored, and Gonzaga ended up beating it right at the end, beating UCLA. Down goes UCLA again. I tell you, I can't rave enough how much I like Mick Cronin and how much I wouldn't care if he was the coach at UK. But I wanted to see him get that win really bad.
Oh, Rick Barnes loses and get rid of him, Tennessee. Mick Cronin loses. It's all right.
Different. That's different.
No, I'm just giving you a hard time.
Yes.
But that's a great developing rivalry there, UCLA and Gonzaga. If they should play in the regular season. I would watch that as a regular season game.
Oh yeah, it would be nice. But ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up the Sweet 16, which means we've got the Elite 8 to review, and we're going to do that right after these words. So stick with us. We'll be right back.
Big chop like I'm Bruce Lee. I'ma stand 10 toes on my 2 feet. Hey, 20 bands on some new teeth. Put out a freak. I done got it out the mud, made it out the streets.
Welcome back, everybody, to Off the Cuff. Adam Banks here with you. This is the March Madness series presented by Off the Cuff with Adam Banks. I am here with my OTC sports panel, Zach Hahn and Chad Rainwater. Chad is killing it on the music this year. This is 10 Toes featuring Phoenix.
This ain't the right song.
Oh. Ain't this called 10 Toes?
Wrong 10 toes, buddy. It's all good.
So you told me to play. There's another song called 10 Toes.
I even sent you like the screenshots of the.
So who is this, Chad?
I don't
know. I don't know this song. No, the 10 toes that I showed you was by some guy named like I don't know. What
Well, that one was better than what you were going.
No, it's not. That's all right though. We'll save it for next year.
We got more segments.
Yeah, we got another show next week.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you're okay.
I just can't believe there's another song called 10 Toes.
No, there's quite a bit. There's quite a bit of songs the same title. But you would think that wouldn't be a popular title of a song, but whatever.
It is. I like it.
Somebody out there is like laughing at us for not knowing. Like,
The one I was thinking about is
there.
the guy his name's Dane Carter.
I'll get it for the next show. All right, folks, the Elite 8. Let's talk about it. San Diego versus Creighton. San Diego's a 5, Creighton's a 6. Ryan Kalkbrenner, he scored 17 points that game. Am I correct on that? But it cut me off if I'm not. And they ended up defeating Creighton in this one. Zach, you fell asleep during that game, so I'm not even going to talk to you about it. Chad, I know you watched it because did we watch this game together?
No, this was the game. This is on Sunday afternoon. Things was the first game on Sunday. We didn't watch this one together, but overall, it's a good game. I think the big takeaway from this was the controversial call at the end with 1.2 seconds. The foul on Darian Trammell. I don't know. I mean, the situation, it really didn't look like a foul. In the situation, I don't know what you do. I mean, as a referee, you have to be fair. But San Diego State had a chance, Creighton had a chance to finish it at the end there, but that foul that took them to the line with 1.2 seconds, that did it for the Aztecs.
I seen a video floating around Twitter of the Creighton coach giving his team a speech of just kind of what it's like to lose. I mean, it's got to be hard to go into a locker room full of emotion, seniors, college players that are never going to play again with their buddies. And, things aren't going to be the same. And it happens so abruptly because March is one and done. But I seen that speech. I encourage the listeners at home, and I encourage you guys, if you haven't seen it, to go watch that video. I might show that in my speech class as what was the message? Was it like a pick-me-up type of thing? It was a pick-me-up. I don't even want to attempt it. I couldn't give the man justice in his words, but he was just talking about how they represented the community and the school and just how they played their hearts out. It was really nice. I seen it. It was retweeted by Richard Pitino, who said it was an outstanding speech. And
well, that's one Richard Pitino's he'll probably have to use a few times.
Yes, but I do recommend checking out that locker room speech. FAU, number 9 versus number 3 Kansas State. Unfortunately, this is the end of the Marquis run. He's not going to be playing in his Final Four, but it was a huge game for him anyway. They ended up defeating Kansas State 79-76 on Saturday night. And here's what's interesting about FAU. They are the winningest team in Division I this season, and they have only won one tournament game in program history other than what they've done in this tournament. So they have not only just won one tournament game in their program history, but they've won 3 straight as of now.
Yeah, they just find a way to win, especially in that one. I know Kansas State made a few runs, and FAU, I believe, held them off. And just good team basketball. 4 players in double figures. I slept on them just because they really hadn't played anybody in the regular season, and they proved they beat kind of the team that I think a lot of people were rooting for, and the player that a lot of people were rooting for. They did what Tennessee, Kentucky, and Michigan State. FAU had beat Tennessee, but they did what Kentucky and Michigan State, the traditional Blue Bloods, could not.
I think Florida Atlantic. I mean, they're obviously better than what we thought they were. But I thought when we saw them on Selection Sunday as a 9 seed, you didn't think anything of it. Like, I don't think anybody even had them beating Memphis. But they were, like Zach said, with a little help from a referee, I think they got a little lucky. But like Zach said, I forgot what Zach said. However, I think they were just better than what we thought they were.
They are.
I mean, like I said, they're a 9 seed. I think they were misseeded, and I think that's what kind of took everybody by surprise because they're better than what they were than what people think. They were 21st in the Ken Palm. They actually finished ahead of Kansas State, who they beat. And like you said, they're the winningest program in the tournament.
Well, they're the winningest program of this season.
Right, you're right.
In this year's tournament, yes.
Okay.
Or just in general for all of, yes. But the Owls, you mentioned them being misseeded. They are the first number 9 seed to get. They're the first number 9 seed to make it to the Final Four since 1979.
I thought Connecticut did in 2014.
No, they wasn't a 9 seed, but the Owls are the first team since 1979 to get there. So Dusty May maybe to Tennessee?
Yeah, Dusty May is going to be getting some job offers.
Yes, and as he should. The measuring stick is how well you do in the tournament, and Rick Barnes ain't getting there. Dusty May is. Makes sense to me. Number 5, Miami, taking on number 2, Texas. Miami looking great. Some people I've heard they're going with Miami. They're sticking with Miami. An emotional team, an emotional coach, and just some highlights of that game. Miller finished with 27 points, going 7 of 7 from the field and 13 of 13 from the foul line, while Wong scored 12 of his 14 points in the second half against the Longhorns. So I think that Texas just couldn't match up with the ability that Miami had that game.
Yeah, Miami controlled the game. Just like Florida Atlantic, it was a good team game. They did what they wanted to do. They look good.
Yeah, I think this is one of the games that I actually did not watch at all. But I was keeping up with it on my phone. And every time I checked, Texas had a lead, like a decent lead. And then when I got the notification that Miami had come back to 1, I was shocked. But going into this game, Texas was out one of their best big men, Dylan DeSue, and I think that Texas coach thought that they probably could get by without having him play because I think he's done pretty well in the tournament. But yeah, like I said earlier, Miami's just they're rolling right now. They shot 59% after coming off a game against Houston where they shot 52. I like Miami going forward, and I think that this win against Texas just proves how good they are.
And then finally, the last game of the Elite Eight is number 4 UConn versus number 3 Gonzaga. UConn, I mean, they have a pretty good track record once they get this far. I mean, the Huskies are 8-1 all time in Final Four games. They look good. UConn doesn't mess around when they make a run. When they get to the Final Four, they just don't go, and that's it. They go and they win it. If you're looking at historically the top 10 college basketball programs of all time, UConn without a doubt is in there. But let me ask you guys this. Would you put, as of late, in the last 20 years, UConn in the top 5 college basketball programs in the country?
I think you have to just because of the championships.
Yes.
Yeah, because will it be their if they win this year? Will it be their 5th?
Yes. It'd be their 5th one. Historically, if you're looking at a historical, overall top 5, I wouldn't put UConn. I'd put them in the top 10. And if you're asking me who I would put in there, it would probably be UK, UCLA, Duke, North Carolina, and Kansas, Indiana, and then probably UConn after that.
If we're going back just like 25 years, I think UConn would have to be number 1.
Yeah, that was historically, but yes, if we're going back 25 years, absolutely.
Without a doubt.
Without a doubt, UConn would have to, because
they have 4. I think Duke would have 3.
Yeah. And I think Duke's had more Final Fours, maybe.
Right. Depends on what you're going.
I mean, maybe just on consistency, you could say no, but they got to be in the conversation for sure. I mean, as a fan, really the question you would have to answer then is, would you rather your team alternate between just having like a losing record, not making the tournament, and then winning the championship the next year, or would you rather just make the Sweet 16 every year? I think that's pretty easy answer for me.
Yeah. And they're going to their I don't know how many Final Fours this is for them, but it's unbelievable what they've been able to do in the last century. Gonzaga is unfortunately not a part. I don't know why I say unfortunately, but they did not. It's unfortunate for them. They did not make it to the Final Four. Tim A played his last college game. If we're talking about popular college players throughout time and throughout history, Tim A would be one of those popular college players. I think people will look back on, remember him. Why do you think, Chad, that he's left such a lasting impression on the game?
I think it's honestly, because he was one of the first guys that here recently that stuck around for all 4 years. I don't know if it's a good thing that he's popular, because I feel like most of the fans thought he was annoying, because after he would make a shot, he would like play with his mustache and flex, and that got annoying. And he'd wear the headband, and like I think at least for us, like as UK fans, we hated it. But he's grown on me over time. I know I like his intensity that he brings to the game. He seems like to be a good person. His post game interviews are they're as the kids like to say, they're lit.
Oh, gosh.
But like I said, yeah, he's really grown on me. But I think that in most part has to do with him actually staying for 4 years. I think those players like that get a lot of respect.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, wraps up your Elite Eight. So we have a Final Four, and we're going to talk about the Final Four after these words. So stick with us, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be right back.
And I'm making them scream. Straight from the bricks, I need a lick. I dreamed about it since I was a kid. Unlit, how can I miss? Came from the bottom and got me a check. I'm a threat, I got a flex. You want the crime, but don't know what it takes. I am built different, I'm not what you think.
Welcome back, everybody, to Off the Cuff. I am Adam Banks, joined by my OTC Sports panel. You are listening to the March Madness series. On the previous segments, we previewed the Sweet 16 and the Elite Eight, and we are now ready to talk about the Final Four. It is set. San Diego State, FAU, Miami, and UConn. The most random Final Four of all time.
For sure. Hey, real quick, I want to throw something out there. I had to look it up. 10 toes. To be seriously committed to a person or something so much that all 10 toes are staying on the ground for them. Used in a sentence, I promise I'm 10 toes down in this relationship, baby.
I like it.
Did you all know that?
I did not.
I did not know that.
Do you think that that's what that song means?
Yeah, it's just like being grounded. I'd have to listen to the lyrics again to see if it's about like a person or a thing or what, but whatever it's about, like all in.
Well, that makes sense. Well, I appreciate the research on that song. Who would have known that song would have been such a big part of today's show? But it is. But yes, folks, a random Final Four, the most bizarre that I can ever remember in my lifetime. The Final Four will have no seeded teams better than a number 4 for the first time. Seeding began in 1979. It's just so crazy. And Zach, why do you think it is the way it is, do you think it's a coincidence that we ended up with a Final Four like this after all of the changes in college basketball? And when I say changes, I'm talking about NIL, I'm talking about COVID, the transfer portal, all of that. Do you think that has something to contribute to this random Final Four?
I think it does. Each of those factors to varying degrees. I don't know that you can say it's a combination of all of them. And if you go back to the Selection Sunday show, I think Chad kept saying college basketball was a drunk year for it. I didn't have any 1 seeds in my Final Four. Just had the wrong teams getting there. There's a lot more parity. I think, at least in these games, there has been. What it takes to build a winning team has been disrupted, I think, to a certain extent. And some teams have figured that out and how to do it better than others.
Do you think that, Chad, that NIL and the transfer portal and any of that has factored into the teams that have made it here?
How am I supposed to follow Zach up with that?
What do you mean?
No, I'm supposed to follow up what you just said.
Different
because I agree with what he just said 100%. I think it does impact it from the NIL and as well as the transfer portal. I don't even know how else to. I don't know. It's just I don't know. I think you even mentioned the other day that because you kind of thought that it was about coaching, but I do believe that. And I don't know if this is like an outlier year, because I mean last year we had NIL and we had the transfer portal, and it was 4 blue blood teams.
Yes.
And then a year later you have this crazy mess and if I was a casual college basketball fan, I would say you just read me off the freaking Final Four for the NIT.
It does have some age on it, though. Now we're a year or two into the NIL deals and the transfer portals.
Well, I just think that that part of it has fundamentally changed. Like, what made a school an attractive recruiting destination isn't necessarily what makes a school an attractive transfer destination. Like, those are different things. That's a different method that you're using to build your team. The idea that you're going to be able to keep somebody and play them limited minutes for a year or two, and then they're going to be there for when you need them, is largely gone for the large part. And just the whole way that a roster is constructed. Then you got COVID hanging around as a wild card, where some guys have stayed at schools for a long time, or they're just older, so the freshmen aren't as dominant. I mean, there's just a lot of different factors at play, and it just seems like it all just kind of came together to just make the outcome somewhat random.
Do you think this is good for college basketball going forward?
No, I don't. I think they got to get some stability in those factors. Like, whatever that mix of how you construct a roster and construct a program, they need to get that settled. I think the biggest thing is, I like what the NCAA was trying to do with, you get one transfer without having to sit out. After that, you got to, that's it. Like, you have to sit a year or get a special waiver or something like that. There's some loopholes with what they're looking at there, but I don't know. You can't just have constant chaos in the way that, like, they have to settle on a new set of rules, and this is how NIL is going to work, this is how the transfer portal is going to work, things like that. And then that will allow, what makes college sports fun is, like, not it just being totally random, but that you have like a set of teams that you can rely on instead of maybe 3 randoms and a blue blood like we have this year. It's 3 blue bloods and a random. That's more interesting to me, and I think most fans would, like, the ratings would probably be better if that was the case, as opposed to it's just pick a name out of a hat.
Yeah, and the coaches, I mean, the blue blood coaches, the historical coaches, they've all started to fall, and you don't see many of
that
them.
Too, yeah.
Yeah, you don't see many of them anymore. So I think that plays a little bit of a factor into it as well. But let's talk about this random Final Four. We'll start with number 5 San Diego State, who is 31-6. Taking on number 9 Florida Atlantic, who is 35-3, and they'll play Saturday at 6:09 p.m. on CBS. A random game, a Final Four that nobody seen coming. Who do you have in that one, Chad?
I'm gonna go. I don't know. I think that I'm gonna go with FAU. It's FAU and San Diego State, right?
It's San Diego. San Diego State and FAU.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna go with Florida Atlantic. You know, they've been looking great in the past 4 games. I think once they won the first round game and then didn't have to play a number 1 seed, we kind of was iffy on them. But once they beat Tennessee, San Diego State, I think you have to think that they're the real truth. And like I said earlier, the 9 beside their name is a little misleading. I think they're better than that, and they've proven it. So I'm taking Florida Atlantic.
Interesting. I don't know who I'm going to take in this. I think San Diego, they earned their spot a little. I don't want to say earned it a little better. Just they've played tougher teams to get to where they're at. They defeated Alabama. They defeated a really, really good Creighton team. FAU, they defeated. Well, they defeated Tennessee. Who was another? Kansas State. Yes. I mean, it could go either way, Zach.
You went with FAU, right?
Yes.
And
I guess if I had to choose, I'm going to go FAU as well.
I'm going to go a different way. I'm going to say San Diego State because, look, if you look at just the profile, the team stats, FAU is really kind of like the poor man's Alabama.
Yeah.
I just looked it up. They are 14th in three-pointers made per game in D1, so they live by the 3, die by the 3. They haven't died by it much. But San Diego State, they allow opponents to shoot 28% from 3. That's third best. I think San Diego State's a defensive team. I picked against them initially for that, but hey, if they can shut down Alabama, they can shut down Florida Atlantic.
Yeah, you would think. That's a good take. It's going to be one for the books. It could go either way. I do think San Diego is definitely the most talented, but FAU's just on this unbelievable run, and I just don't think it'll stop. I think that we're going to see Florida Atlantic in the championship game. But finally, our last game of the Final Four will be number 5 Miami, who is 29-7, versus number 4 UConn, who is 29-8, and that game will be Saturday at 8:49 p.m. on CBS. I think this is actually going to be a great game. A 5 seed, a 4 seed, Miami, who potentially could become a real player in college basketball in general, facing off against UConn, who arguably is a top 5 college basketball program. Zach, I'll start with you this time. Who do you have, Miami or UConn in this one?
I think it'll be a good game. I think it could go close. I've slept on Miami this whole time, but I'm struggling to find reasons that they could win this. I think UConn, they got 7 good 7-man rotation. They're 7 deep, and man, they just dominated Gonzaga. So give me the Huskies.
Chad?
Yeah, I want to pick Miami in this game, but I just can't.
You're picking Miami?
No, I said I want to pick Miami, but I just can't. UConn is looking really good. I think this right here should have been the championship game.
Yeah.
I think whoever wins this game will be the champion. I really want to take Miami, but I can't. I'm going the Huskies.
Do you think more people care about the Final Four or the championship game? Does more people watch the Final Four than the championship game?
I would say no.
Yeah, I'm not sure. That's a good question. I'd have to look at the numbers on that.
Yeah, I would be interested to see, too. I don't know. I feel like sometimes the NCAA makes a bigger deal out of the Final Four than...
It's on a Saturday versus a Monday night game.
Than the championship. That's one reason. And then another reason is because what's everybody always trying to make? The Final Four. Right? They don't say, I want to make the championship game. They want to make the Final Four. So it's like when you make it to the Final Four, you've reached a certain mecca. So really just winning one more game after that and advancing as a runner-up. As a program, in other people's eyes, does that really do anything for you any better than just making it to a Final Four?
Not really. You're talking about Final Four versus runner-up?
Yes.
Nah, I don't see that being a huge difference, really. I mean, it's slight.
Yeah. I would say that the final score, or the winner of that game, not the final score, will be UConn. They've been dominant. They've looked unstoppable since the beginning of this tournament. I cannot believe that. What's weird is I never had UConn winning. I had Iona upsetting them. And when I saw UConn play Rick Pitino's Iona, I was like, uh-oh, not only because I had Iona in my Elite Eight, but I said, uh-oh, because UConn looked like a championship team.
Well, actually, looking at the 4 teams in the Final Four, I had Charleston beating San Diego State. I had Memphis beating Florida Atlantic in the first round. I had Drake beating Miami, and you had Iona beating UConn. I had UConn winning, but 3 of the 4 teams I had them getting beat in the first round, and look where they are now.
All right, so let's go around and give our champion prediction. I've got UConn and Florida Atlantic in the championship. UConn Huskies will once again prove why they belong in the conversation as being a top 5 college basketball program. Zach, who do you have?
Yep, they got Sonogo, Jordan Hawkins, Andre Jackson, Joey Calcaterra. Not their best player, but I love the name.
Yeah.
I think they, who knows at this point, they could really just be pick a name out of the hat. But of the teams and what we've seen of them so far and what UConn's done, they've done it against the best. Give me UConn.
I did say that I think that the winner of the Miami UConn game would be the champion. I'm going to take that back. I'm going to be a little different here. I'm going to say, and as crazy as it sounds, I'm going to say Florida Atlantic.
Wow.
Their story's great. They have a 7'1" Vlad Golden in the paint there. I think that UConn will struggle a little bit with him. I'm riding all on the Owls, baby.
I'd love to see it. What a championship that would be. It would be one for the books, and it would make this crazy tournament.
Big Jim, he'd agree with
even
you.
More historical. And Big Jim is loving Chad from afar because he's got FAU as well as the champion. So I will let you hand deliver the off the cuff of that makes tumbler when you see Big Jim if FAU pulls it off. But ladies and gentlemen, that pretty much wraps up the review and preview of all of the games in the NCAA tournament until we get to the final game. But folks, we still have one more segment to go. Stick with us. When we come back, we're going to talk about those coaching changes, so stick with us.
We take it hard to the hoop, we drive to the hoop, we live for the hoop, we die for the hoop. You start with 64, then you cut that in half. You break them brackets down and see who's standing last. You better guard your man, he shook that double team. It's anybody's game.
Welcome back, everybody, to Off the Cuff. Adam Banks here with you, along with my OTC sports panel, Zach Hahn and Chad Rainwater. This is the March Madness Series Road to the Final Four episode. Chad, I see you banging your head on this one. You must like this song.
Where'd you find this at?
A true artist never revealed. No, I found it just on a Spotify playlist. March Madness playlist. It's called. It's by Code Red. It's called March Madness.
March Madness. Put your game face on. March Madness. Who's gonna take it all?
Hey, can you get more?
The song is so like 90s.
Yeah, where did you? Because it said 64 teams, so
it is an old song. I think this is 2008.
Really?
Yes, that's what it says. 2008.
I believe it.
Yeah.
And ain't it weird that when you watch a basketball game from 2008, it looks like it's 1978. It's so different.
I think it's the shorts.
It's
down to the
100% the shorts.
It is. Oh, the baggy shorts in the early 2000s was phenomenal.
Hey, can I issue a correction? You did one earlier, and I'm inspired.
Oh, for sure.
There are a couple people that have 2 teams right in their Final Four. Big Jim being one of them. He had FAU and Miami. And then Chad H. 1980 also has FAU and Miami. However, Chad is in different Chad in 20th, so he must not have got much else right to have 2 teams in his Final Four.
Yeah, well, it sounds like that Big Jim's got it licked.
No, he's tied for the lead because Twitter PA Print Art. Nice shout out there. I'm going to have to check that out later. Good plug.
So if we can reach the winner of the bracket challenge, we're going to have them come on the show and talk about their picks, what went into it and everything. So hopefully we get to meet Big Jim and everything.
Whoever wins. That one's got UConn. Somebody else has got San Diego State. It's still very much up in the air.
Yeah, it's exciting. So if you're not really excited over this tournament, at least be excited over the bracket challenge over there on ESPN. But folks, let's talk about the coaching coaching changes. There's just been a few since the last time we spoke. At Texas, it's official now. Rodney Terry is the new man in charge there. He gets to drop that interim name from his title. He agreed to a 5-year deal with the Longhorns, just north of $3 million annually. Was it a good hire?
I think they just had to make that move and go ahead and name him head coach. I think they were just waiting until the tournament was over. It would have been a bad look on their part if they would have looked elsewhere with the success that he had.
Yeah, agreed.
California, Randy Bennett, turned down an aggressive push from California. They offered him $3 million. He said no. And then there was another finalist who turned him away. It was the Mark Madison, who from Stanford, who said no. But now I've heard that he's reconsidering, and he's wanting to take the job at California.
Talking about Mark Mad Dog Madison?
Yeah, I guess. Is that what they call him?
Is that who they're talking about, Zach?
I think so.
The guy that played for the Lakers?
Yeah, I think that's right, but Stanford hadn't done anything. That's how bad, that's basically Cal's like, hey, do you want to come put our dumpster fire out? They're like the Browns of college basketball. Like, nobody wants that job.
How did they... No, go ahead. You're fine.
I was just going to continue down my list of the coaching changes. Wichita State hired Paul Mills. Georgia Tech hired Damian Stoudemire. Notre Dame...
Damon Stoudemire?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Where did he go?
Zach seems like he knows who that
No,
is.
he was a
Damon
player.
Stoudemire was a big-time NBA player,
Oh, yeah,
man.
played for the Blazers. Where did he go again?
He is the new coach at Georgia Tech.
Oh, okay.
That's a good hire.
Yeah, so he replaced Josh Pastor.
Do you know where he was before that? Is this his first coaching job?
That's a good question. I don't know. I didn't even know he was a player, so you're asking the wrong dude there on that. Notre Dame hired Micah Shrewsbury. Syracuse hired Adrian Autry. Austin Peay hired Corey Gibson. George Mason is looking for a coach after they fired their coach, after Kim English left for Providence. Kim English is the new coach for Providence. Alex Pribble is the new coach for Idaho. The new coach at High Point is Alan Huss. Penn State is looking for a new coach since Micah Shrewsbury left for Notre Dame. Iona hired Tobin Anderson. We talked about that, right?
Yes.
Yes. And then Bowling Green hired Todd Simon. Jim Witzel was fired at Buffalo. They're looking for a coach. Jack Castleberry has been promoted as the new coach at Farley Dickinson since Tobin Anderson left for Iona. Chris Beard, we did talk about Chris Beard going to Ole Miss, didn't we?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, Dwight Perry was hired at Wofford. Rick Cabrera was hired at Northwestern State. Russell Springman was promoted to the head coaching position at Oral Roberts since their coach left for Wichita. Brian Hodgson is the new coach at Arkansas State. Charlie Henry is the new coach at Georgia Southern. Sean Woods, former Morehead State coach, and who left Morehead State for Southern, who we have a listener that attended Southern, Mississippi, Wade Kerr. Shout out to Wade. He was fired from his head coaching position. Never did like Sean Woods, never was a fan of Sean Woods, and I seen some stupid noise on Twitter of people saying that he needs to be on the Kentucky coaching staff, and it just blows my mind that people say that because Sean Woods never played for John Calipari. He played for Rick Pitino. And has anybody ever looked into Sean Woods? He's a terrible coach, and he treats his players awful. So no, he would be a very negative, toxic coach to have on our bench. Jason Houghton was hired as the new New Mexico State coach, and then finally, that wraps it up.
I was about to say, you about to talk about like Union and Cumberland.
But that, folks, is the coaching carousel. Anything else to add from what I mentioned there with the coaches?
No, Damon Stoudemire was the last one I've heard of. I mean, the crazy thing is, like, if we listen back on this maybe 5 years from now, one or two of those names will be like, they'll be successful. And they'll be like we're talked about the old generation going out, and the one or two of those guys will take that place, but they're unknown now, so it's interesting possibilities.
It is interesting, and folks, it will be interesting to talk about these Final Four games after they've been played, and we talk about the championship, which means we will be back next Wednesday night at 9 p.m. to talk about it. Thank you for tuning in tonight and listening to our preview of the Final Four and our review of the Sweet 16 and the Elite Eight. Thank you to my OTC sports panel, Zach Hahn and Chad Rainwater. Jordan Conatser could not be here, but we hope to have him in studio.
Well, yeah, he owes us money
next week. Yes, and you're not going to run away, Jordan, from this just because that you lost. And I want a $20 crisp bill. I don't want no check, money order, or nothing like that.
Where's my money, Jordan? Huh? Got my money?
Better have my money. B better have my money. But, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. I'm Adam Banks. That is Zach Hahn, and that is Chad Rainwater. This is the March Madness Series, Road to the Final Four, and this is Off the Cuff with Adam Banks. We will see you next Wednesday at 9 p.m.